I have to say I learned a lot more, not just from the speakers, but from actually managing the society. That was the skills I got more out of it. I mean, speakers were, of course, very impressive. But I think I remember the most was, a few incidents. Number one was when President Hamid Karzai of Afghanistan came. He was a very accomplished politician. But he was really nervous before the speech. He asked for a few moments and he kind of looked a bit nervous. And I was like, wow, even the most accomplished, experienced politicians are nervous of university students. And then midway through his speech, I think some guy came in from his team and said there was some bombing that happened in Afghanistan. So we had to kind of pause.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was when I realized how lucky I was to be in that position. This guy has so many important things to do back home in Afghanistan. He flew all the way over to come to speak to these university students. So I was quite impressed by that. Malala was interesting. Malala Yousafzai, right? She was only a nominee back then. Now she's a Nobel Prize winner. She almost didn't come. She was obviously very busy. But I met her dad before she finally agreed. And her dad really wanted her to do PPE, which was, of course, I was doing. So I said, well, I can help give you some advice.
Yeah.
So I then going through the parent channel.
Use it to your advantage.
And I ended up, she was quite quiet before we went on to the event. Unlike her younger brother, who kept coming up to me and kind of asking me to play with him. He was really young. So I thought the best way for me to kind of get him to just stay put was to do a card trick. I knew a card trick, right? So I had a pack of cards and I just did it in the office to him. And he was really impressed. And it backfired because then he kept coming up to me saying how did you do it? How did you do it? Right up to when I was walking with Malala into the hall, he still came up to me, asked me how I did it. So it was a bit distracting. So that didn't work out. But that was funny. I also, Super Junior, right? Korean band. I didn't know who they were at the time. They came. They couldn't speak English, so we had an interpreter. But on the morning of the event, I went into the Oxford Union campus and there was an Asian woman standing outside in a backpack. And she asked me, can I stay here? And I was like, oh, sorry, this is not a hotel. There's some hotel. It's I haven't booked any place. I just flew all the way over because I really want to meet Super Junior. And I was like, I'm really sorry, but it's only open to university students. So then when the event happened, I interviewed Super Junior. I didn't know too much about it, I have to admit.
Yeah.
But when I came out, people started coming up to me and trying to grab my hand. And I was like, what's going on? And they're like, you shook hands with them. I want to grab
second-hand handshaking.
Yeah, and I was like, okay. This is really weird, but sure.